Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
It's time for the Nick B Podcast. No co-hosts, no filters, and no telling what the hell will come out of his mouth.
That's what I love about this guy, Nick.
Now, here's your host, Nick B.
What's going on, everybody? You got Nick B coming to do another episode of Blah, Blah, Blah with my trusty portable mic. I'm not in the best of areas, so it's going to echo, I'm quite sure. But I promised you guys that I was going to get back to podcasting more than I have been. I've recorded actually probably three to 10 other episodes of Blah, 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 but I haven't edited them, and it doesn't look like I'm ever going to edit them or have the time to edit them. So now it's just kind of, fuck it, let's start over. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're starting over with this episode of Blah, Blah, Blah. This is season 5 of Blah, Blah, Blah. Or Blah with Nick B, whatever you want to call it if you want to shorten it. And for the most part, I am going to try my hardest not to sound like the fat ass I am on the mic and not have a bunch of spit and like kind of noises and things like that happening, because I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to record it and I'm going to put it out there for all to listen to, simply because I just don't have the time to edit those things out, to condense it so that it just goes to the part where I'm talking about. I have popped a nicotine lozenge, and those tend to cause me to choke every now and then. So if I cough, obviously I will take that out. And sometimes they hit me a little harder than they normally do. But we're going to roll with it, okay? So again, the swallowing, the drinking of the water, the stuff like that, you're going to hear that because I simply just don't have time to edit. Now, hopefully I'll get to a point where before summer ends that I can edit. And I'm currently in a rather squeaky chair, so if you hear anything that's going to squeak, it's the chair that I'm in as well. Now, Blah, Blah, Blah with Nick B is just basically a podcast where I can come on and talk about anything that I feel I should address, anything that I need to discuss in a long format. Now, it's not necessarily timed. It can be anywhere from, a couple 10, 15 minutes to 20 minutes to an hour. I think my longest is like an hour and a half. But I'm hoping to get to a format where it just stays an hour. And some of the things that I'm going to come and talk about today, again, I try to stay away from politics, so you don't usually have to worry about stuff like that. I'm basically just going to talk to you about what's been going on with me and what we have been working on behind the scenes. So just to give you more of a backstory of what I have actually been up to since October of last year, when Nick B in the Morning went off the air. Now, before I get into the thick of it, I know I've kind of touched on it a few times, and I've said some things about it and didn't really go in depth, and I'm still not going to go too in depth in terms of, like, I'm not telling anybody's names, I'm not telling anybody's business, I'm not doing anything like that, but I am going to speak to what happened on my end so that it's on the record and so that you guys know and you can understand, so that we can, again, move forward from this. So back in mid-2024, technically this should start all the way back when, back in 2019, 2020, when I first started trying to buy a radio station. The radio station that we were at the time was an LPFM. I was going to buy that and, hopefully, move on from there to get commercial stations or whatever. The LPFM, we've spoken in length about that. I don't want to drag that one back up again, but kind of got screwed over there. And I know everybody has their own story, but they don't want to sit down and talk to me and tell me their side of the story, so you get to hear mine. I believe I was set up in that instance. I believe there were people conspiring to take the station over for their own. Some of those people currently, from what I have been told, are the ones that are running the programming and doing everything on it. So I don't know. I don't know what to believe there. I had the huge falling out with the general manager of that station. But my goal was, I told him that my ultimate goal is to own radio stations. So it took me a couple of years to bounce back from all of the contract stuff that was going on at the time, because the Nick B Show was in contract with a lot of advertisers and a lot of syndicators, a lot of radio stations that were wanting to pick us up and play us because they tested us, they liked us, whatever the case may be. We were sending everything through a MP3. They were replaying it. People were loving it. We were having a great time. We had James, Courtney G, LB, and myself and JR running the board, and it was great. We had a great time until we tried to buy that station or take over that station, because you don't really buy an LPFM. You just kind of assume it, and you go from there. But you do, the people that put up the money for the equipment and stuff like that, you do kind of have to figure out a way to do that, which I'm still not even sure if the way that it was presented to me was legal or not, but hey, it may have been God protecting me to where I didn't get in trouble there. So after the show went off the air, all of these people that I had signed contracts with, I had to honor those contracts. So I traveled a lot to a lot of the stations, and it was just me that was live on it. They were like, let's just do this. They basically got free work out of me, free labor out of me for a while. Well, free labor means the bills and stuff are still stacking up, so at home. So I still had a pile of money issues, a pile of troubles just from trying to go after something that I believed is part of my path and one of my dreams. Well, it took me about 2.5, almost 3 years, I think. I think it was right at 3 years when I first started trying to bring the show back. James moved on and started kicking ass in another market, and we had a great conversation, and it was like, I want you to be part of this, and he's like, I want to be part of it too if it's right, and nothing but respect for that. Courtney G was still in the area, so I spoke with her, and we were able to kind of hang out and talk about what we were planning and what we were going to attempt to do and how we were going to bring it back and all that good stuff. In fact, on my old Instagram, which is no longer there, I posted a picture when me and Courtney got together and talked at a Starbucks, and told her, this is the goal, this is what I want to do. And we ended up bringing Nick B in the Morning on the air, I think about a year after that. So it was 2023, late 2023, that we brought that back. And we did it for over a year. And then October of last year is when we actually stopped. The reason we stopped is because I was in the process of trying to buy a handful of stations. Some of the stations we were able to secure, some of the stations we had to let go of. The deals just didn't work, or whatever the case may be. And then I found out, because of some people that we had brought on to our company and onto our staff, and they were representatives of our company, that because they had a felony, the FCC has a big no-no policy with people that have felonies. You can appeal it, you can go through the motions of telling them, explaining what the felony is, but 90% of the time, you're not going to succeed in station ownership if you have a felony or someone within your organization has a felony. So that resulted in even more loss of money and loss of income, because I had to now fight against letters of intent and stuff like that, asset purchase agreements, things like that. There's language in there, in some of them, where they can come after you. They can do all kinds of things. I had investors. I had people that I was responsible for, that I was responsible to, I should say, that weren't happy. So it was like, shit. I stopped radio. I stopped the show. Courtney had been kind of not showing up the last few months. She kind of flaked, and because of all the stuff we had going on, we moved the show to just strictly 2 hours. We ended up losing some of the FM affiliates that we had at the time, because they said we breached our agreement, whatever the case is. No love lost to them, because some of them are still very close friends of mine, but it ended up costing me a lot of money again. And I got an opportunity to go and do some Hollywood things, some movies and some productions and some stuff like that. And I did that from October till about, I want to say February or March. And then a lot of that got kind of shelved, and it's still kind of going through like editing processing, and some of the distributors that picked us up and the distribution rights that were taken, they're kind of sitting on it. So it's like, well, fuck, I can't sit here with my hands under my ass this whole time. That's not me. That's not what I do. And I got a family, and I got bills, and I got shit that I got to take care of. So it was like, okay, I'm going back to what I originally set out to do, which was radio. So we started building the studio out. We started doing everything again with the studio, upgrading the equipment, getting everything ready for the Nick B show to come back. And I started looking for radio stations again. Not because I want to promote my show. My show is definitely something that I enjoy doing. But I'm not going to put it on my own network unless there's no other option. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just going to buy these radio stations just so I can put my show on there. I know people that do that. I've known a lot of people that have done that. The general manager of the last station I was at in Birmingham did that. The only reason he bought the radio station was because he wanted to promote his campaign that he was running for office in our state for. And he likes to hear himself talk, as do I. I mean, most radio guys do, if we're being honest. But he's going to hate that if he ever hears it. Anyway, so we started looking at buying some radio stations, and that right now is where we're at. We're about to close on quite a few radio stations that is going to keep me busy, and that's what's been keeping me away from doing my podcasts, doing my radio show, doing all of those things. And I'm not giving excuses. It's just when you take over a radio company, some companies may be, fully automated, meaning they have nobody working there. I've got to pick up the slack because sometimes those automation contracts, even if they're barter, they can be pretty pricey. So you barter for content, and you get like syndicated shows, like the Nick B show is a syndicated show. And there are some people that are getting us on barter right now because the Nick B show is back. It's just we're not posting on our YouTube channel. We're only basically doing an old school radio show. We are getting to the point where we're going to be broadcasting back on YouTube and all the socials and everything. It's just we're not there yet. We've still got a few more things that we've got to upgrade and a little bit other things that we got to take care of before we can do that again. But that's the goal, because social media brings in a lot of our audience. And speaking of social media, if you haven't seen, my Instagram was nuked. Nick B Talks is no more. That had over 7,000 people at one point. It had over 10,000 people at one point, and then it whittled away to like 6,000 because there were bot accounts and fake accounts that were following us and harassing us that we had to go through and kind of delete. But Meta hit my main account, and since they make you kind of put all of these different accounts under what they call the account center, because they hit my main Instagram account, my personal Instagram account, with a violation, community standards, they banned all of them. And I'm talking all of them. The Nick B Show's Instagram is gone. Nick B in the Morning's Instagram is gone. And Nick B Talks is gone, as well as Kicking It with Nick B, which is one of my other shows. And my Countdown show Instagram. They were all gone. And there's no appealing it. I already appealed, and they said, no, we're standing by this. And it was over a stupid meme. So, anyway, moving on. You don't sit there and you don't cry over spilled milk, right? You get up, you dust yourself off, you keep going. So, Nick B Own Radio, I believe, is my new Instagram. My old Instagram I had for over 10 years. So there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of things that was on that account that was just it was just a giant pain to lose, right? So it's going to be interesting moving forward and building back. I'm not opposed to building back. I mean, hell, I'm in my third time of building back on radio just in the last 5 years because of all these different things, trusting the wrong people, trusting the wrong networks, trusting the wrong management, whatever the case may be. And a lot of that's on me. But at the same time, I think some of these other people deserve a little bit of the blame, too, for what they did to us. But we are currently working to take over these radio stations. The Nick B Show may or may not end up on some of those, even if it's for a temporary means, just so that we can get the morning radio, the local morning radio feel, stuff like that, back in place. Which means my family is going to have to be moving soon, which brings up a whole list of other issues and moving nightmares. I can only imagine what the nightmare is going to be like, because my wife and I promised each other when we bought the house that we bought 10 years ago that we weren't going to be bouncing around anymore. This radio life is not for the squeamish. It's almost like, a military family. I'm not trying to compare it, but there's no real other job that makes you move as much as radio does. Because you could be working at a station in Texas one morning, and the owners of that station are like, hey, we need you to go to Savannah, Georgia. You work there on Monday. They're like, we need you there by Wednesday. I've got a family. Okay, well, you need to be out there Wednesday. You worry about getting your family out there after you get out there. And that's kind of what was happening with me in radio. I've bounced all over the damn country in radio. But it's what I love. I love doing radio. I love connecting with people. I love getting out there and having fun. I love doing the contests. I love doing the prizes. I love doing all of that shit. It's not shit, but you know what I mean. I love all of that. I love connecting with people. I love helping people. I love being able to send somebody to a restaurant they've never heard about because we were talking about it online. That helps the businesses. That's what radio is about, the connection. That's why radio is never going to go away. No matter what anybody tells you, no matter how they try to scare you, radio is not going anywhere. In fact, radio has had its best years since 2020 and on. Like, the numbers are like they used to be. It's a great time to be in radio. And I'm really stoked and excited about getting into it with the ownership side of things. And I'm really, keeping my fingers crossed. The Irishman in me is kind of freaking out that these things are getting close to a point where they're going to deliver me the keys, because this is a dream that I've had since I was a boy, like 8, 9, 10 years old. This is something that I have been trying to do since I was that young, and I'm almost there. So that, in the nutshell, is what's been going on with me. That's what I've been doing. Like I said, I'm going to be podcasting more, whether I'm sitting outside on my deck having a nice cigar with my trusty travel mic that I have right now that I'm hearing, that you're hearing me on. It's probably not the best sound, and like I said, there's going to be echoes, there's going to be noises. I'm going to podcast wherever I am from here on out, simply because, again, this is one of my passions. This is something that I love very deeply. The only other thing outside of my family that I love equally to radio is writing scripts and movies and telling my stories and stuff like that. So, and hopefully those will make it to their destination before too long, and I'll be able to tell you all about those. But for now, that's pretty much all I got for this blah, blah, blah. I know it's a bit random. I got to do some editing to it because I coughed, I choked, and I had some sinus issues there for a minute. But, yeah. So look for more news to be coming about the stations and everything that's going on. Find me on all of my socials by clicking on my link tree. My link tree is linktree/NickBTalks. That is the best way to find wherever I am, anywhere online. If you want to find any of the shows, it's linktree/NickBNation. NickBNation.com is the website where you can go and find everything about me too. I can't wait to get back into the thick of things. I can't wait to fully get into the swing of everything. We've got some new people on the Nick B Show that I can't wait to introduce you to. The reason we decided to come back as the Nick B Show is because it has an audience, and it's not necessarily going to be a morning show. That's something you'll learn more about when you finally get to hear it again. But for now, that's all I got for you. Before I leave, I got to give you my customary goodbye, which is hug your loved ones each and every day, because you never know when the good Lord will call them home. For every dark night, there's always a brighter day. And life is just a party, and parties weren't meant to last. I will see y'all when I see ya. Y'all be good.
The proceeding was produced by Look Butterflies Entertainment. All rights reserved. Unauthorized reproduction or rebroadcast in whole or in part without the express written consent of Look Butterflies Entertainment is strictly prohibited. Check our website for shows, ways to listen, and all of our social media links. To learn more, visit www.nickbnation.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Look, butterflies.